Hello Kodak camera friends. I wanted to share with you a collection that I've pulled together over the last couple of years, and it's each of these cameras has their own unique contribution to the Kodak memory. I have my 35mm selections right here, including my recent stereo 35, which was unique, came out of the 50s. I have the roll film, the 127s and the 620s up here and up here. Over here I have my 126 collection and my 127 film collection. I wanted to speak with you today and kind of show you a few of my 126 cameras, and it's a kind of an interesting little family to progress from the initial offering in 1960 through the early 80s. The 126 family goes back to the 126 camera film cartridge. 127 film and the 620 film, popular in the 50s and early 60s, was roll film, which had paper backing. And of course it was intimidating because if you made a mistake when you're loading the film, you didn't get any pictures. All you got was a blank piece of black paper when you got back from developing. So the 126 cartridge was unique. It came out in 1961, and it incorporated the film, which was basically a 35mm size film with only single perforations at the top, with the paper backing in a hard plastic case, which made for easy loading. And that made almost foolproof loading. And then what you do is you mail in the whole cassette, and it would be broken open at the processor and developed. The 126 family started with the Kodak 100. Kodak 100 is a basic camera that came with a flash bulb A3G flash, and it had fixed focus, and it was an aluminum body. And of course, as we talked about with the film cartridge just simply loaded in and closed. Very simple. Now that the 104 and the 100 both look very similar, virtually identical, and all throughout the Kodak series for the 126 family, the differences can be known by the number. Is the 4 on the end is for the flash cube, and the 0 digit is for the individual bulb. In order to appreciate the developments and the evolution of the 126 camera family, it's important to understand the developments and the innovations that came along with flash photography as well. In 1963, when the 104 was introduced, also introduced the flash cube. The flash cube, this box by Sylvania, incorporated the AG1 bulb, which was common with all the other cameras of the time, into a convenient plastic housing that allowed 4 pictures to be taken, 4 flashes to be taken, without changing the actual flash bulb itself. So the only requirement that the flash cube had that limited it in some respect was the incorporation or the requirement for a battery. And the battery that the flash cube needed was fairly energetic and was fairly expensive. So that added cost and complication to the camera. The cameras all had to have an incorporation of the battery into the bottom. And again, like I said, that added some more cost. Late in the 1960s, I believe it was 1969, came along the Magic Cube. The Magic Cube was developed by GE, I believe, and it looks very similar to the Magic Cube, the Flash Cube, but it was a little bit taller. But the key innovation of to the Magic Cube was a requirement that it did not have to have a battery. The Magic Cube used a mechanical striker on the bottom, so you could have a very inexpensive camera like this Keystone, which was my first camera, which is why it's in my Kodak collection. So you had a very inexpensive camera with no battery that could provide flash photography. The family started numerically with the 100 and 104. The family moved up to the 300 series. This was a 324. This was a West German made camera. It had a variable focus glass lens, still with the flash cube on top. Very similar, but a little bit better optics, a little bit bigger camera. Instamatic family moved from the 300 series up to the 700 series with this camera. This was a Kodak 700. Since it had a 0 in the last digit, it used a AG1 bulb. This attachment would hide when it was not in use. It used a light meter. It was fully focusable, and there was the actual focusing was visible inside the viewfinder. So that was an evolution. The 300 series was just a fixed, it was a variable focus, but you just focused it by approximation. This actually showed you the distance that you were focusing. That camera was followed up at the top of the domestic Instamatic line by the 800 series. This is the 814. This again has a fully automatic shutter. It used, since it ended with a 4, it had the flash cube attachment, which is in this case still a flash cube. And the 814 was an evolution above the 804 in that it had an automatic winding system. So it had a spring, and you would ratchet the spring, wind it ahead of time when you loaded it with film, and then it provided an automatic film winding mechanism. This was really the top of the line, best lenses, best optics for the domestic 126 family. I mentioned the 700 and the 800 were the top of the domestic camera line for the 126s. This is the Kodak 500, which came from the Kodak AG, Kodak AG is the German division of Kodak. This is really a beautiful camera. It had a strong aluminum frame, lever action, film advance. It has a photo cell, fully automatic, and yet fully manual. It can completely change all f-stops, focus, as well as the shutter speed. It can be completely controlled manually on this camera. What else is unique about this camera, even though it was introduced in the mid-1960s, was the introduction of the hot cell, the hot shoe. The hot shoe allowed electronic flashes or flash assemblies to be slid onto the top and fired electronically with the shutter. This was a big evolution for all photography in the mid-1960s. The 126 camera family, the peak of the family, or the top of the line, was the automatic reflex camera. This model from Germany has the flash cube, which was unique. We don't generally think of flash cubes when you think of a single lens reflex design. In the single lens reflex design, this was a removable lens, fully manual, and with a photo cell to allow you to control the settings. This is really the top of the line for the Kodak 126 family. Thank you for allowing me to share my Kodak camera collection, and specifically for focusing on the 126 camera family today. And I share with you the enthusiasm for Kodak, and I hope to share some more of my collection with you in the future. Thank you.